My name is Michelle Weitzman-Garcia. I am the Executive Director of Workforce Development for Regeneron. I've been there for about 3 years, and today what I want to take you through is a little bit of the talent management journey that we've been on in support of bringing medicines to patients in need. So a little bit about Regeneron. Regeneron is a very science-driven organization. It has undergone tremendous growth in the past 3 years. As I mentioned before, I started 3 years ago, and the organization has doubled in size all through growth, not through mergers and acquisitions. We have a set of really innovative technologies that we are able to leverage and use to bring new medicines to patients very quickly. We are driven by discovery. We have an incredibly broad pipeline. We are not focused on any particular scientific area. And frankly, what makes us so successful is our innovative culture, which is really grounded in thinking about diverse ideas, different perspectives, challenging the status quo, asking why we can't do it in a new and different way, and et cetera. We also do things differently at Regeneron, which actually gives us a lot of freedom and flexibility in our workforce development practices because we can treat a lot of different things as experiments. So for example, the conventional wisdom or the more traditional pharmaceutical companies are really led and kind of pushed through commercials. So commercial goes out, they look at what's available, where the marketplace is, what they might think is viable, and they start to develop drugs to support that. We're actually the opposite. We actually go in, we discover, and then we try to figure out what the market is for our products. We do not focus on one broad base of a drug or technology. We actually have products across a variety of different therapeutic areas. We actually take a long-term focus on patient needs rather than a short-term quarterly impact or look at the impact. And our pipeline comes through internal innovation rather than through acquiring drugs from other companies. This chart just shows you a little bit about our different drugs. We have 5 marketed products. 2 of them were approved this year. And we have probably in the pipeline 15 to 20 more that are coming for a variety of different conditions. And this is really kind of unheard of in the pharmaceutical industry. So we are incredibly fortunate to be able to kind of leverage our internal talent and through their innovation to kind of bring new medicines to market. So a little bit about our talent challenges. We've had tremendous growth, as I mentioned before. We went from 3,000 employees to over 6,000 in about 3.5 years. We've had a very robust history of kind of, the way things that have been done in the past are kind of what is preferred. We also have a little bit of an academic mindset. Some of our senior leaders have come from academic institutions, and that's how they think. That's how they were trained to think. There's also a very strong preference and a very strong consideration given to making sure that we're not taking time away from our scientists, so that doing HR type things so that they can spend more time doing the science and in being more creative. We have increasing specialization and expertise. We built our company on a set of, through generalists, people who were very interested in taking on a variety of different things outside their area of expertise. Now, as we've grown, we've needed much to add in a lot more specialization and expertise. And that's presenting some challenges for, 1, how do we develop that talent? And 2, how do we kind of keep the generalists engaged as roles become more specialized? Culture fit is incredibly important to us. We actually want to make sure that we hire people who fit our culture well. Manager skills are something that we really struggle to develop. We're working on that. We have great, well-intentioned managers. They are brilliant at what they do, but there are some challenges in terms of how they view their role as people leaders, whether or not they even see themselves as a people leader. We also have incredibly junior staff in some parts of our business running very large parts of, running very large teams. And frankly, we have internal talent expectations that will allow, that kind of force us into thinking about all of our programs very differently than we have in the past. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about the Learning Organizational Development Department. We are set up to kind of attract people, assess them, identify and develop future leaders, ensure we have team effectiveness, support change management, provide meaningful training, and develop the workforce of the future, and kind of refresh our cultural principles to make sure that we've fully encapsulated them. So in response to some of our talent challenges, what we've really focused on is building out an organization, the Learning and Organizational Development Department, to really make sure that we can address all these different challenges that we have. And then we've built out processes that allow us to address those challenges. So for example, hiring and assessments. We are implementing a culture fit assessment. We look at people's adaptability as part of the hiring process. We look at competencies. So we've built out a much more robust hiring platform to bring in people who are, one, not only high quality, but also two, can fit our culture. We also have responsibility for performance management. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about that today. Development planning is something that's new and kind of coming out and coming back into the organization. It was present for a while and kind of disappeared off the radar screen. We provide training in support of development planning. So this is kind of, it sits out as its own bucket because we spend a lot of money on training. And then we also look at succession planning and talent reviews to really kind of begin to identify future talent or even replacement talent for our executive population. So let's start with performance management. I'll spend the most time here, and then we'll kind of quickly move through the other processes. Performance management at Regeneron has been on a journey, to say the least. When I first started in 2014, there was really no rhyme or reason to kind of performance management. It was really a compensation exercise. It was really focused on trying to determine how to pay people at the end of the year. It was a complicated system. We had the what, the how, the goals, the weightings, the ratings, all leading to a 12-point rating scale. Incredibly difficult for managers to navigate, and also very difficult for employees to get real-time feedback. When I first came into the organization in 2014, we went from 12 ratings down to 4, and we also began to introduce this idea of competencies or behaviors to help people understand that it wasn't just about what they got done, it's also about how they got it done. In 2015, this is where it becomes a little bit more controversial. We actually allowed the businesses to tell us what they wanted their performance management process to be, which is not typical in many organizations. Typically, it's HR telling kind of telling the business what they wanted it to be. But in 2015, we said, okay, what would you like for it to be? As a result, we have 4 different performance management forms. We range in we range from very structured, which is on the R&D side, which has a what and a how component to it, very, very traditional, with an overall rating, that was in 2015, to the other end of the continuum, which is our product supply group. They actually have a 30-30 process, which is every 30 days, employees get 30 minutes of feedback. That has replaced their performance management process. So we, at the same time as we were making those changes, we actually made changes to the rating scale. Half the company eliminated the rating scale. In 2015 and 2016, we continued that trend. And right now, I think less than 10% of the organization is still with a rating. So we've moved those numbers down. The benefit we found of not having a rating is that it opens up more authentic conversations between managers and employees. We still have a compensation rating behind the scenes. And frankly, we're looking to be able to move that out of the, kind of out of our performance management process in 2018. Let's see, so this is kind of our process for the more traditional organizations. We don't typically set corporate goals. We don't typically set individual goals anymore. We actually talk about it in terms of what you need to accomplish. We do mid-year calibrations. We do mid-year discussions. Those may or may not, they're not mandatory necessarily. We do year-end calibrations and then year-end review and compensation decisions. So on the more traditional side of the house, this is our standard process. This just shows you really quickly what the calibration grid is that we ask them to do mid-year. It's really about teaching them about behaviors and performance. You can't have one without the other, is what we're trying to impart. Behaviors can be competencies, they can be important things for the organization, but they're defined at the local level or at the highest business unit level to kind of ensure that they're driving the right sort of behaviors. I'm going to skip these two slides. That just provides more data. This is interesting. It just kind of gives you a snapshot of what happens with performance management within the organization. Many leaders, frankly, would really love if we could get away from performance management. I can't truly get away from it right now because we need something to engage in, to make sure that managers are engaging their employees in conversations. But I think in the terms of the traditional performance management, kind of realm, we will be moving away from that much more in the future. We have 4 different performance management forms. We have 5 different performance management processes. In 2016, 92% of employees were engaging in the process in some sort of way. They didn't necessarily complete it, so we only had 81% completion. Again, in 2016, 15% of employees still had ratings. That's down even to less than 10%. And then our performance management cycle is from November to November. A couple of other pieces I just want to cover quickly. Development planning, new concept. Something we had, wasn't really effective. People don't really understand it. So what we're trying to do is really introduce career ladders, career conversations to at least begin to give it a framework, because in the past it was pick your 3 development areas. Nobody knew why. So we're trying to actually change that and provide more of a framework there. We're actually looking more at internal mobility. So again, putting that framework in place to give some meaning to development planning. Career ladders, they're present in about half the organization, so that's a good thing. We've made some progress there. Ours describe what it takes to move through a functional area. They include both competencies, expectations. We've mapped our training programs to them to support the development of them. We have a manager toolkit to help managers talk about career ladders. And hopefully through that we'll begin to see some uptick in development planning. Training has been a journey for us. We have struggled to figure out the right balance between compliance-based training and kind of the soft skills or the basic skills training. It is a continuous effort on our part, and we actually need to really kind of take a step back and take a look at what we're doing from a training perspective, because right now we have too many system administrators sending out too much training, quote unquote trainings, quote unquote learning, which is really beginning to take a toll on people's ability to, or desire, frankly, to go in and navigate a system and learn on their own. Let's see, manager training. We've actually started beefing that up considerably. We're focused on building basic capabilities. It's available to first-line managers. We are building out mid-level and executive development. The training content will vary depending upon whether or not you're more seasoned or newer to a managerial role. For us, it's ongoing, never ending. It will never kind of stop. we'll have a job for a very long time. And we've actually started being much more thoughtful about executive onboarding. We had a very bad habit of kind of dropping people into the organization, and without kind of that onboarding piece, some of them have really struggled. Succession planning, we've taken a look at that. We now have successors, identified successors for many of our senior leaders across different parts of the organization. We've done talent reviews through in almost every part except for a few key organizations, but they will come online next year. So beginning to kind of look at what we've, kind of what our talent is, what are the types of talent we have, and then how do you begin to develop that talent according to their potential. So we've started taking on some of that. This is just a high-level summary of kind of what we've talked about, and then our focus areas for 2018. So in 2018, we'll focus on leadership development, kind of really building out that mid-level and executive level development, career ladders for the other half of the organization, trying to build training into something more robust and more appropriate. We will always have a focus on manager feedback and discussions. It's something that we will never kind of move away from. Continuing out the focus on succession planning and talent reviews. Probably a cohesive review of our competencies. We need to kind of take a look at everything, probably more comprehensive review of that, because we're kind of all over the place in terms of our competencies. And then we need to take a look at our HR data and kind of how we're navigating through the system.